Good morning, students. Today, our class is Social Science, and we will study a new chapter, chapter number 10, Following the Mahatma, part 2. Let's start. Please open your textbook. I am reading from the textbook. The Civil Disobedience Movement, 1930. It was difficult to attain Swaraj without putting up a fight. At the Ahmedabad session of the Indian National Congress, the Executive Committee decided to launch a movement to attain Swaraj by breaking unjust laws in a disciplined way. It authorized Gandhiji to launch the civil disobedience movement, Dandi March. The civil disobedience movement started with the breaking of the unjust salt law. The British government had monopolized the production and trade of salt for the British government and the English merchants only. Salt was made a taxable commodity which Gandhiji and other nationalists felt was very unjust. Gandhiji announced in the year 1930 that he would carry out a march up to Dandi near Surat to break the salt law. Gandhiji started the Dandi march from Sabarmati Ashram, Ahmedabad, with his 78 companions on 12th of March 1930. Meetings were held in every village that was on the route. Gandhiji explained to the people the characteristics of the civil disobedience movement, need to break the salt law, and the significance of satyagraha in attaining Swaraj. Gandhiji reached Dandi on 5th April 1930 and on 6th April he broke the salt law. Gandhiji, while picking up a tipsful of salt in his hand, said, "With this, I am shaking the foundation of the British Empire." Farmers, tribals, and women actively participated in this movement. The government restored to the policy of suppression. Thousands of satyagrahis were arrested. Go to next page. Things to know. Dharasana village was a big center for salt production, hence Gandhiji announced that he would do satyagraha over there too. Gandhiji and Abbas Tyabji were arrested, so the leadership of Dharasana Satyagraha was given to Sarojini Naidu. The British government tried to suppress the Satyagrahis with utter cruelty. 300 Satyagrahis were wounded and two died. Still, the Satyagrahis did not step back. Now, round table conferences. British government convened round table conferences in order to discuss the constitutional changes required for India. The first conference was unsuccessful as the Indian National Congress decided to boycott it. The second round table conference was held in 1931 in London. Gandhiji attended it as the only representative of the Indian National Congress. In this conference, the demand for separate electorate for the Dalits and for different communities was made. Gandhiji was disappointed with this since it would segment India. Leaders of various communities did not agree and hence the conference failed. Go to next page. The Government of India Act 1935. The Government of India Act was the second phase in the constitutional changes in India, but it turned out to be the inadequate and disappointing for the nationalists. According to Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the degree of autonomy introduced at the provincial level was quite limited. The provincial governors retained important reserved powers, and the British authorities also retained a right to suspend res- responsible government. The elected representatives of India were given a very limited authority. This was against their expectation. As per the Act, elections were held. Gandhiji suggested that the Indian National Congress would form the federal legislature only if it is guaranteed that the governors would not exercise the exclusive powers granted to them and act as per the advice of the elected provincial ministers. Viceroy and National Secretary agreed with certain clarification, and Congress and Muslim League formed the federal legislature. The experiment of the provincial Swaraj continued for 2 years. When the World War II broke out in the year 1939, the British government declared India a part of it without consulting the federal legislature. As a sign of protest, the committees resigned. Demand for Pakistan 1940. Muhammad Iqbal and Chaudhry Rahmat Ali were the Muslim leaders who propagated that the Hindus and Muslims should form two separate nations as they represented two different cultures. The resolutions of demand for Pakistan was passed in Muslim League session held at Lahore in March 1940. It was suggested to form an independent nation having the majority of Muslims population. After this, the creation of Pakistan became the main objective of the Muslim League. Maulana Azad was born in Makkah. He knew many languages and was a scholar of Islam. He advocated the unity of all the religions. He was always very active in Gandhian movements. Individual Satyagraha 1940. During the World War II, Gandhiji started individual Satyagraha instead of the mass Satyagraha for two reasons. One, there was there were chances of it turning into a violent movement, and two, Gandhiji was not willing to put the British government into a very embarrassing situation during the war. Gandhiji selected Vinoba Bhave as the first individual satyagrahi. Vinoba Bhave started his satyagraha by delivering anti-war speeches. On the fifth day, he was arrested by government and was put in prison for 3 months. Vinoba Bhave's basic inclination was towards the constructive programs right from the beginning. Hence, Gandhiji had a deep faith in him as a satyagrahi with high values. Things to know. Cripps Mission 1942. Sir Stafford Cripps were sent to India to pacify the agitated Indian leaders with promises to grant the autonomy to the Federation of India. However, it nowhere mentioned when it would be done. Moreover, it agreed over the separate of Pakistan too. The Indian National Congress opposed it, and Winston Churchill withdraws his proposal. Now we will read Quit India Movement 1942. Mahatma Gandhi started a new chapter of freedom movement after the World War II. He asked the Britishers to leave India immediately. Gandhiji asked the people of India to follow the principles of do or die and continued the struggle against the Britishers in a non-violent manner. The historical resolution of Quit India was passed in the Mumbai session of the Indian National Congress on 8th August 1942. Go to next page. Gandhiji and other leaders were arrested on 9th August. It gave a fresh impulse to the movement. The various public meetings, processions, and protests and demonstrations became order of the day across the nation. A large number of farmers and youth joined this movement. There were incidents of attacks on government buildings and on communication facilities like post and telegraph. The government adopted suppressive measures like mass arrests, confiscations of property, and imprisonment to curb the movement. More than 1 lakh people were arrested and put into jail. Thousands of people were shot, but the Britishers realized that it was the end of their rule in India and their hold over the people of India would not be for long. The Cabinet Mission 1946. The British Cabinet Mission 1946 of India aimed to discuss and plan for the transfer of power from the British government to Indian leadership, conferring India with its independence. Formulated at the initiative of Clement Attlee, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, was it was represented by the British ministers. The proposals were one to establish total self rule in the country, two to divide the whole country into total three provinces, three allow India to design its own constitution, and number four formation of an interim or provincial government till the constitution was formed. The Congress secured majority in the following elections and formed the interim government under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. The poor response irritated the Muslim League and they declared 16th August 1946 as the Direct Action Day. As a result, communal tensions prevailed in the country and many parts witnessed communal riots too. However, the Muslim League maintained its position in the government through the varied protests till the formation of Pakistan. Attlee's announcement of the independence of India, February 1947. The communal integrity was jeopardized by the attitude of the Muslim League with the interim government. The British Prime Minister on 20th February 1947 announced in the British Parliament that latest by June 1948 the powers would be completely transferred to the Indians. The enthusiasm and happiness of Indian leaders and the common people knew no bounds. Gandhiji welcomed this decision of the Britishers by saying that it was their best decision. So here the following of the Mahatma Part 2 chapter is completed. I hope you will study yourself at home two times and I will send homework that you will write in your workbook. See you in next class. Thank you.